Tim Drudge here, view from the South Stands, coming to you on Thursday after TFC's loss last night in CONCACAF Champions League play down in Mexico to Pumas 4-0. I'm not going to talk about the game in any real in-depth detail tonight. I just have a couple of very quick observations that I want to get to, and I just want to get to a couple of things that irked me, and I want to get to how the Champions League might play out between now and the end of the group stages, and how TFC still, even after that game last night, has a chance to qualify. The game was all over by the half last night, as we all know. TFC had conceded 4 goals early, and that was pretty well all she wrote. The result wasn't embarrassing. I know some people in the press wrote that. I know a lot of people on the message boards wrote that. It wasn't a disappointment. There were some disappointing aspects to it, but it wasn't a disappointment in and of itself. I think it was unlucky. And you might say, what the hell, Tim, are you nuts? Saying that game was unlucky last night when they got bossed off the field. Well, in a way, yes it was. Because the Pumas team that Toronto FC saw last night was not the Pumas team that FC Dallas beat a few weeks ago in Mexico. It wasn't the same team that Toro of Panama drew away in Panama a little while ago. Those two teams were made up 100% of Pumas reserve players, their second stringers, sometimes even their third stringers. Last night, bowing to a lot of local criticism from their fans and from the media in Mexico City, they played maybe 3/4 of their starting team. A number of those players are Mexican internationals who played, in the Gold Cup and won it, played and did well, relatively speaking, in the World Cup. A lot of wonderful players, and they bossed a very mediocre/poor TFC side off the park last night. 3 players that looked quite good and were quite influential in Toronto FC's win in Columbus last weekend. Richard Eckersley, due to a red card accumulation, yellow card/red card accumulation, I should say. João Plata with a hamstring injury, and Eric Avila, who's cup-tied to FC Dallas, coincidentally, all were not able to play last night. So there are 3 players that might have made at least a bit of a difference last night out. You had Kouvermans in, I think, the 12th minute, and Ryan Johnson, I think, in like the 17th or 18th or maybe 19th minute, somewhere in there, with a couple of nice goal-scoring opportunities that didn't go in. I don't know if that would have changed the game entirely, but it might have made the result a little more palatable than it was, I think, for a lot of fans today. The things that bothered me last night were the real high line, it seemed, that the TFC defensive backs were actually playing. It seemed that they were getting carved open by long balls all night in behind them. There was also, I think, tactically a real big gap between where the midfielders were and where the defenders were. There seemed to be a real huge space that the Pumas midfielders were able to exploit. They were able to make some runs and then put some long balls in behind the TFC defense to streaking players like Bravo, who ended up scoring a hat-trick last night, were able to actually take advantage of. I think that's how they were sliced open last night. And credit to Pumas for actually, I think, seeing early on, at least from a defensive point of view, what sort of opponent they were facing. They adjusted their tactics accordingly, and they went down Route 1, and boy oh boy did it ever work. The only other thing I really want to quickly talk about in the game itself was how angry I got when I saw TFC players putting their arms up for offsides last night. So help me, if I was the coach of that team and I saw a player do that and not run out a ball and not let the referee, stop doing their job, waiting for the referee to do theirs, or they think that this is going to influence the referee in making a call. I got news for you, it's not going to. As a defender, even a defender of poor ability, you got to run those balls out. And if I was the coach, I'd be fining players left and right, fining them if that's allowed in the collective bargaining agreement. I don't know, but I'd find some way of punishing players that actually did that, because it's completely unacceptable to me that players don't run out balls, especially a team that's been struggling defensively so long and so consistently long as our Toronto FC. Now we've got a little bit of a speed bump on the way to the remainder of the Champions League games. The next one, of course, is Tuesday against Toro, and that's an MLS game, sort of an inconvenience to the more engaged fan. I'm sure the front office that's got to sell tickets probably disagrees with me there. But hey, TFC is out of the MLS playoffs in all but mathematical terms right now. That game has not 1/10 the importance to myself as the Toro game does of Tuesday of next week. Bottom line is now, with the way that the tournament is shaping up, with Dallas having 7 points after 3 games, another win is going to put them through pretty well, and they've got 3 games to do it. Pumas has 4 points, TFC has 3, and Toro has 2. TFC still has to get to the 10-point plateau and hope to have a little bit of help along the way to make sure the Pumas doesn't win all of their remaining games as well and put it out of reach. So TFC has to win their home games and go to Dallas and maybe scratch out a point. And hopefully by that point, Dallas will be home and qualified for the playoffs. They'll be home and qualified for the knockout stages of the Champions League, and maybe they'll do what Pumas did early on, sort of play their reserve players and give TFC a chance to squeak in there. The Tuesday game, not only is a win required, a draw mathematically keeps TFC in there, but then they've got to run the table and win twice, win in Dallas and beat Toro at home. They have to win against Toro, in my opinion, big. They've got to get 2, 3, 4 goals against Toro and really run up the score and get that goal difference back up, because if it comes down to perhaps what is the most likely scenario for TFC to qualify, it's going to be Dallas in with, I don't know, 12, maybe 11 points, or even 10. You're going to have Pumas maybe with 10, and you're going to have TFC with 10, if all things go well for Toronto FC. If that happens, it comes down to goal difference. Well, guess what? TFC is down 4 goals in that game last night. They've got to try to make those up against the one opponent that they have the best chance of getting them from, and that's going to be Toro next Tuesday. So I'm really hoping that, I personally hope that we see a lot of kids play on Saturday versus Colorado, and I really hope that the real emphasis is placed on the game on Tuesday, where it should be placed, because that is, of course, the last place where TFC can win something significant this season, which is advancement to the knockout stages. The only other thing I'd like to say about that is that if TFC does get into the knockout stages, I think, again, I know it's not the UEFA Champions League, you know, the lure of Champions League football, but I think the rebuilding process of this team, which is, of course, ongoing, is going to be made that much, maybe a little bit easier when you can perhaps attract players to come here that may be able to play, you know, meaningful games early on in the season. I think it might do wonders for our regular season as well if players are able to play more meaningful games early on as well, instead of waiting for the middle of March or the end of March for the season to start. But hey, that's just me. But I'll see you guys on the blog here on Saturday after the bump in the road that is the Colorado Rapids, and of course I'll see you here as well after the huge game next week at home against Toro FC. Thank you very much for watching, and you guys have a great weekend. Cheers.